I retired 5 years ago from the local factory here in Bainbridge. I wanted to save some of my retirement money and take trips because I never had a vacation. It began around the first month. There was the yelling and constant arguing. And then that one day when he pushed me into the wall, and only 'cause I asked about those checks he'd made out to himself out of my checking account. And I'll be fine. He just needs a little more time to get better about what he's done. I know he feels bad. I feel like it's my fault. It takes money for me to live here. I feel bad for him. I know I'm a burden, and he's my only child.
Last year, Adult Protective Services, or APS, investigated over 13,000 cases of alleged abuse, neglect, and exploitation in the state of Georgia. APS is mandated by Georgia's legislature to investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of vulnerable adults. That's anyone over the age of 18 with a disability, and the elderly, folks 65 and older who are not living in a nursing home. Now, the job of Adult Protective Services is to gather facts from all sides, to make a determination of whether abuse occurred, and by working with the individual to prevent further maltreatment.
I am a caseworker with Adult Protective Services in Northwest Georgia. I've worked at APS for 3 years. I still cannot believe that there are so many vulnerable and at-risk adults in Georgia. My most important role is as investigator. I work approximately 15 to 20 cases at a time, and each case is different with their own unique set of complex issues. I also work hand in hand with community partners to determine if an adult has been the victim of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, and to identify available services to aid in the prevention of abuse. Many of these partners are mandated reporters, such as medical professionals, social workers, and even bank officers. They not only help to identify potential cases of abuse, but can also help to minimize future risk of abuse. Reports can also be made by concerned citizens. The public is key to reporting, and we encourage folks to call us if they suspect any maltreatment of a vulnerable adult. If nothing else, we can route the referral to proper authorities. When many people think of Adult Protective Services, they think of seniors. But the most compelling case for me didn't involve a senior. The case that sticks with me the most involved a 23-year-old young man with an intellectual disability. He lived with his family, and the alleged abuse was from his father. Thankfully, there was no abuse found. However, the client was in need of mental health services. The client asked if he could get help locally. I was able to get him some and facilitate additional services. It was very fulfilling to be able to help this young man out, but most importantly, it was a successful outcome for this 23-year-old.
Now that we've heard about the maltreatment of an adult with a disability, let's hear from Rochelle. She'll share a case involving the abuse of an older adult.
I'm Rochelle McCray, and I work with Adult Protective Services in South Georgia. I've been helping people for over 20 years, and some of the cases we encounter are indeed challenging. Sometimes clients would rather live in deplorable conditions or even refuse help for fear of losing their independence. They may fear the person victimizing them, and they're afraid of having nowhere else to go. We all deserve to live with dignity, and APS has a mission of making a difference and to assure that individuals live safe, healthy, independent, self-reliant lives. The one case that really stands out to me is that of a very proud veteran with a terminal illness who lived alone. In this case, no one was harming him. He was his own abuser. He was heartbroken from a divorce and refused support from family and other agencies. He was very weak, but verbal and aware. It was clear that he couldn't take care of himself. The house had not been cleaned in months, and he had very little food. Initially, he refused help, and he had the right to make that decision. But after several investigations and lots of conversation about what he felt he needed in order to live safely at home, he agreed to let me help him. We arranged for in-house hospice services and meal deliveries. He also qualified for homemaker services through the VA. Ultimately, we were all very happy, especially our veteran. Why? Because he was still in control, and we made a difference. That's what makes my job rewarding.
As you've heard from listening to Rochelle and Marshall, there are many different types of abuse APS looks for. There's physical, which is any time anyone inflicts physical harm to another person through hitting, pinching, kicking. There's emotional or verbal abuse, which includes insults, threats, and overall intimidation. Then there's neglect, or any time a caregiver is not doing their job, which could be leaving the person in need alone or failure to provide such basics as food or medicine. There's also exploitation, which is usually financial. That's when caregivers start writing themselves checks or giving themselves expensive gifts paid for with the adult's money. And last, and probably the most challenging to investigate, is self-neglect. You see, APS must consider the individual's rights to make their own decisions. In some cases, those individuals might have impairments and are unable to manage issues directly affecting their welfare. With any given case, one or all of these types of abuses can be occurring at once. Therefore, it's the job of APS to look into all types of abuse during the course of an investigation. APS caseworkers have an important mission: to advocate. This means advocate for the adult's safety, the least restrictive solution to address the problem, and protecting the adult's rights and maintaining confidentiality. They also work to bring perpetrators to justice, and above all, seek to prevent reoccurrence. To find out more about APS and the warning signs of abuse, visit the Aging website and click on the Elder Abuse tab. Or, if you suspect abuse, neglect, or exploitation of an elderly person or an adult with a disability, please call APS today at 1-866-552-4464 or log on to www.aging.ga.gov and make a web report. Adult Protective Services, protecting people, preserving rights.